In regards to financial literacy, how are you able to educate yourself to such an extreme?
I think financial literacy is crucial. I think they should honestly teach that in school.
How do we not know how to pay our mortgage or taxes?
It's just not the point of it, right? Sadly enough.
At the end of the day,
that's
you're right. The idea of school is to kind of create employees, not entrepreneurs, right?
That's what they try to hide.
Yo!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on the Uncapped Network. Today, we're honored to host Mr. Elliot Pityn, Principal and CEO of the Pityn Organization. Since 2016, Mr. Pityn has propelled the organization to the forefront of the industry, overseeing a portfolio surpassing $50 million across 350 units in Canada. Renowned for his expertise in acquisitions, recapitalization, and portfolio management, he's reshaping the industry standards by identifying undervalued properties and implementing innovative strategies. Join us as we discover all the insights between his success. Mr. Pityn, thank you so much, brother, for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. How's your day been?
It's been busy, but
yeah,
good. Yes.
Very busy, or?
Yes, my weeks are busy. I try to kind of relax over the weekends, but weeks are busy. Very busy, yes.
When you say busy, what takes a lot of your time away from you?
It's more, so I do have a team, like I have VAs and stuff like that, but it's honestly, when I have a deal under contract, it's more working with investors, kind of doing doing meetings with future investors, talking to property managers, contractors, just a lot of meetings. Yeah. And it's not too bad because most of those meetings are virtual, but it's just kind of managing everything.
I kind of want to take it back, you know what I mean? Like to who you were growing up and how did you even get into this? Because like what you're doing right now is a lot of people's goals, right? So how did you get into all of this?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. How I got into this is, I think I remember when I was younger, I was kind of confused on what I wanted to do. My parents were, they had a lot of schooling. My dad was a scientist. My mom went to Ivy Business School and worked for a pretty high end, corporate job. So they had huge, they wanted me to go through school and had, wanted me to go to university and had big goals for my
you got to be a
school.
Doctor, a lawyer.
Aspirations are through the roof. Yeah.
And most parents want that for their child, right? And to be honest, what kind of made me feel uncomfortable is going that route. I was never really comfortable about just being in school, to be honest. I didn't like the idea of a 9-to-5 and just, working away. And because I honestly, as a kid, I was like, I think I was really self-aware when I was younger, and I was like, I would look at my parents and I like the fact that they're hardworking, but the fact that they always have to work and they never have time to hang out with us. I really saw that as a kid, right? And I didn't want that life. And I thought, and I saw in movies on the internet, there's people that were traveling and living life. So I'm thinking to myself, if they're doing it, why can't somebody like me do something like that, right? So I knew there was something else out there, but I just didn't know how to obtain it, right? So I think I hit a point where I definitely didn't want to work a 9-to-5 the rest of my life. And I told myself, I need to figure out how to accomplish these goals that I know that these high level people are accomplishing. So I then went, business to businesses. I went to multi-level marketing, joined Amway, joined a whole bunch of different multi-level marketing companies. And I think it was in that one Amway seminar, I saw this presentation, the cash flow quadrant, right, by Robert Kiyosaki. And he mentions real estate, right? Basically, there's employment, self-employment, business owner, and investor. Right. And then the idea of, once you get the money, invest in real estate to create the passive income. As soon as I heard that, it was just like a light bulb went off. started reading his books, started reading all about real estate. And I realized if I focus my time and energy on building this portfolio, I could build it once and potentially walk away for it forever. I told myself that's what I needed to do.
And how old were you at that time?
I was about, when I was kind of like looking into all this, probably like 17, 18.
Damn, that's young age to like start to like have that like maturity.
Yes.
To look at life like that, you know?
Yeah.
Did someone push you towards that, or is this just like your thought process? Where you're at in life?
From having some of these conversations with my parents, I think they told me I was always like very entrepreneurial, right? I was like starting businesses when I was young. I was like shoveling snow. I was just doing a lot of things to make money. And then even when I was younger, I was flipping cars apparently, right? Went to the States when I was like, I was really young, bought a car out there, sold it here, right? But yeah, I loved business. I loved the kind of the excitement of it. And yeah, and then I guess I just ventured off into the real estate realm.
Did you feel that the sky was the limit based off like your surroundings of what you've had?
I think after I started reading books, after I started getting into different circles, and I know there's a bad stigma about multi-level marketing, right? But I think the biggest takeaway I got from it was there was a lot of, I guess, self-development in those networks. I wasn't too interested in the system per se, but positive people, they pushed you to, to try to achieve your goals. They basically showed you a list of books that you should read, right? So it's kind of like understanding that there's a network of people that can help you propel you to the next level, right? Propel you to where you want to go, right? And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've got is surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like at a young age, like, you have so many different sorts of friends.
Yes.
Like, did you feel like you had to like remove yourself from a certain group to get where you were? Or?
Yes. And that was hard. My high school years was fun, right? Like I was the party guy, right? My parents don't like it, but I had many parties at their house and it was a fun time, right? And I just thought to myself, hey, like if, I could go down this path where there's nothing wrong with working a regular job and 9 to 5, right? But for me, I knew I didn't want that, right? And I think it's not even about the regular job. It's the fact that you just didn't have anything else to show for. That's, I think, what scared me. It's just like you work here for 30, 40 years, and then on the side, you're trying to save up for retirement, but then you hardly can. And I've seen that with, family members, right? And I just didn't want that for myself.
Yeah.
So I think, going down that path, one of the hardest things I had to do was distance myself from some of my friends, right? Because they were good people, but they still wanted to party. They still wanted to have fun and, get women and all that stuff. And I just wasn't into that anymore. I knew this is what I needed to do. And, getting a little taste of, I guess, not the network marketing, but that network of people, I knew it was that much closer. So I just had to eliminate all the distractions. And I think that's probably number one thing that holding people back is the ability to eliminate all the distractions. Because if you keep them around, temptations are always going to be there.
Yeah. Did you feel you had to swap who you are as a person, almost like identity wise? Like your friends knew you as Elliot. Yeah. But then you had to become Mr. Pityn, which is the guy you are today.
Yes, that's a great question. And you're right. You have to, if you want to be this person, you need to become and start to do those actions. You start to create those habits to become that person, right? Because the person that you are right now isn't that person that can, isn't that person that can get to that place, right? You need to actually become that new version of yourself, right? If that makes sense. But I personally had to kind of overcome that. It was difficult. I had a lot of isolation, right? But during that isolation, all I did was educate myself, right? I told myself I needed to do this, this, and this. For example, get a decent job. I was I think I was doing college at the time, but I was trying to get a decent job because I knew with that job, I can get loans to buy property, right? So it's like literally writing down your goals and re-engineering them to be able to kind of step by step accomplish those goals, right?
And how was the process like with that first property you eventually acquired? Like how was that journey?
So the first property, I just saved up, right? So I was working a lot. I flipped cars, I think I was working at the keg at that time. And I remember I got fired, and then I think
fired for what?
Yeah, that's a long story, but let's just say maybe I was not taking it that seriously. I'll take some responsibility. Definitely didn't think that way back then, but yeah. But I think at the end of the day, getting fired was a blessing because a week later I got a higher paying job, right? So at the end of the day, and that job helped me get more properties, right?
Yeah.
So it, at the end of the day, it definitely comes down to mindset, right? And I definitely have fostered a mindset where you're going to have roadblocks. It's just a part of your journey. It's technically your attitude towards it and what you do when they come, right? If you're going to be like, poor me and just like, complain about it, man, things aren't going to happen for you. Yeah. If you're that person to be like, okay, I'm here. Now what do I do? Right? I do this, this, and this to solve the problem. You just get it done.
Yeah. And that's probably just like trial and error, just like
exactly.
like really creating that mindset, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And what, like when you were first looking for properties, was it like duplexes, single family, like what sort of assets were you looking at?
Yes, at the time it was all like single family. So I bought the first one, and then I kind of played house because I got a girlfriend, and didn't work out. Got back on track, and then I started buying a whole bunch more. Right, so condos. But it was interesting. After a couple of them, I started realizing I keep running out of money. Right, I buy them, I work hard, and then I got to put this down payment, and then I keep running out of money. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, there must be how are these people acquiring all these properties? Then I think I read a book called No Money Down. I think it's by Robert Allen, but I'm not sure. But it was like No Money Down. And just by reading that book, I thought it just got me thinking outside the box. I'm like, okay, well, maybe structure the deal or structure, when you submit the offer, structure it differently. And I tried that. Yeah. And I remember trying it on this one property. I think it was a condo, and I just tested it out, put in the conditions. The seller kicks me back like $5,000. Yeah. And it worked. And basically I bought that property, got the kickback of $5,000, furnished it, and rented out for more money. Furnished, right? But it just opened my eyes where, hey, like you just need to think outside the box to potentially grow your portfolio faster.
When you say structure the deal, like was it like wholesaling or was it like raising money? Like how were you structuring the deals?
At that time, it was just a normal like purchase agreement. Right. Okay. So it was, I think for that deal, it was honestly, I think I even had a realtor helping me, but I just told her to put this in the offer and just to see what the seller would say. And they agreed to it. Right. Yeah. But after that, then I started, I think that was the same year or a year after, I started getting really creative. Right. So I then started looking for sale by owners and negotiating, hey, like vendor take backs, second mortgages. Right. And that's when I really grew the portfolio. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think the education like that you were working with was lacking at the time?
Of course. Like before I knew all this information, 100%. The key factor here is the fact that I actually read those books and went to those events that taught you those things. I wouldn't have known how to do it. Right. That was literally the key factor.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are scared to be going to these events, like thinking outside the box. Like how important was networking and being present like for you?
It was paramount. Like I don't think I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't do that. Yeah. Right. The education, the discipline to actually, pick up a book and read it and try to understand it. And then we live in a world right now where you can find a lot of this stuff for free online. Yeah. Right. So just you just need to be disciplined to just absorb the information and really try to figure it out, right?
What kept you disciplined at such a young age? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? A lot of people, they want to focus on one thing, but they're not focused.
That's a good question. I think in this, day and age, it's a little harder because of all the distractions. But the biggest thing that kept me disciplined is the fact that I knew that I wanted a certain lifestyle. I wanted to, per se, be successful, right? And be, have something, build something where my family, my parents definitely thought highly of me, because I can promise you, we didn't get there yet, but dropping out of school and trying to pursue this real estate wasn't a, let's just say they didn't like that idea.
And I was gonna ask, like with having such ambitious goals, like how was your support system handling that?
It's interesting. I think the biggest, my parents were supportive, but I could tell, it's one of those things that they're supportive, but they're like, they think you're kind of almost delusional, right? Right. Like they're trying to be supportive, but like, hey, like, do your side thing, but make sure you focus on school. Right. And, and I sat them down one day and just like, no, like I'm not doing school. I'm doing this. Right. And I can tell that really, affected them. And for the longest time, I feel they kind of felt like probably not going or doing too much with my life.
Yeah.
But then, once they started seeing more and more properties, they started believing.
Yeah. So right. So you dropped out of school then, like, what were you taking and
I was just in Fanshawe. So the goal was I did a couple courses in Fanshawe and then transition into university.
Okay.
So my parents wanted me to do that.
Yeah.
Trust me, I didn't really have a plan on what I was going to do.
Yeah.
You just did it.
I just did it. But I think getting that one property, right? I then house hacked that. And then once I started transitioning to looking for another property, I realized, okay, house hacking this, I was living at that property at the time. I think I was making, after all the expenses were paid, I was making an extra like $500.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, if I had 2, 3, or even 10 of these, like I'd make almost like as much as, because my mom had a high paying job, but I'd make more than her.
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking to myself, okay, well, maybe if I showed her the numbers, she would accept something like this.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So, and that's kind of what I did. I just like told myself the numbers don't lie. Right. Yeah. And if I can do this, I've done this once, right? I bought this one house. I just have to duplicate it and do it over and over again. And I get to the end result.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have siblings that they compared you to at all?
I was the oldest.
Okay.
Right. So
that comes with a big responsibility.
Exactly. Yes. So, but no, I have a great relationship with my siblings and they definitely look up to me, and
that's awesome.
I kind of like, take care of them and
try big brother.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's funny you asked that because like, I remember like when I started my entrepreneurial journey, the parents are like, oh, well, your brother's doing this. He's an engineer. He's doing this. Right. So it's like, I really applaud you for like at such a young age, like sitting them down and dropping out. You know what I mean? I can't imagine like how like tough that was for you to be like, okay, like let's have this conversation.
Trust me on this. I got us, right?
Yeah. But it's honestly, even at the time, deep down, I knew I had the conviction, and I had the mindset, I'll definitely do whatever it takes. Right. Mm-hmm. But I was scared too. Right. Mm-hmm. I was scared because at the end of the day, like, how about if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
Right. But that's kind of what I tell people. It's just, you're going to have that fear either way.
Yeah.
Go through it, like fight through it, because it's still going to be there.
And in that journey, so like, was it acquiring like duplexes, triplexes, or how were you able to like really scale?
Yes. Okay. So acquired, I was focused on single families, condos, single family homes, then duplexes, triplexes. And then I think what happened, then I did a flip, which really helped.
What year was it? If you don't mind me asking.
I don't even know the years. It's because there was one year I bought like 10 properties, right?
Wow.
So it was, yeah. And I think it was that same year or maybe, but it was around that time I did do a flip and I had no money, right? So I think I closed on another triplex, a couple of triplexes. I had no money, right? So, and I got this lead from a tenant, talked to the seller, and the seller was the tenant's friend, kind of go back and forth, build some rapport, and I convinced them to do a vendor take back.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So he would finance the first mortgage, and basically I then went to some family members to raise the down payment.
Yeah.
Right. Did all the work myself in terms of renovation. I put another second mortgage on it to fund materials for the renovations because I honestly had no money.
Yeah.
I was capped out. Right.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people think that's a scary position to be in.
100%.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh shit, my back's against the wall. Like
exactly. But honestly, when your back's against the wall, you have to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And now I have like family money in here. I'm not trying to lose that either. Right. So I have to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I did it, sold it, and made $150,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So, and with that, bought a lot more property.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So after that deal, I got into a 5-unit building. It was 4 townhouses, 1 single family home. Bought that for about $600. Again, I did use some of my money with that one. That one took a year and a half. I sold that one, made another, I think almost 200,000 there.
Wow.
And then I got into a 10-unit.
Yeah.
And then that 10-unit was, that one was a hard one because it was an amazing deal because I got it for like $350.
Wow.
Right.
10 units for
10
$350.
units, yes.
Wild.
Unheard of now.
I know, like it was an amazing deal, but it was
Came with the
totally
problems.
mismanaged. Like it was an old guy. He was doing the best he could, but drug dealers in there. Like it was thinking about what I was doing back then, like literally negotiating with them. I'm probably like thinking about it now. Like I got myself into some interesting situations,
How old
but
were you?
I think I was about like in my 20s, right?
Yeah.
Like early, I'd say like maybe mid 20s by then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but again, so got this building. And then even with this building, I negotiated a second mortgage with the seller.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't have to put down much money. Right. And that's the thing. Once you understand how to kind of get creative, always use it. Even if you have money. Like why use your own money when you can just like leverage, right? Just by getting creative, or if you have partners, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just you can get the deal done faster, and it's sometimes easier just when you can kind of create a win-win with the seller just to get it done faster.
Yeah.
Right. So I closed on that one, got the bad tenants out, paid out the drug dealers. That one almost took me, I think, again, a year and a half, almost 2 years to kind of stabilize it. And then I got my money back plus about, I think I got 200,000 on that one, their first refinance.
Yeah.
And I did multiple refinance on that one. That one's like worth, right now it's like 1.8 million.
Yeah.
Right.
From 3.
I know the audience
300.
right now is just
Yeah.
listening to like, okay,
Numbers,
this is a
just number
doctor's
count.
salary
Yeah.
for a year. You
Yeah.
got this. This is a
Exactly.
lawyer's salary for a year. Like you're getting
Yeah.
like heavy amount of money. Like
But it's interesting. And when I say those numbers, it doesn't really faze me, not just because I don't think they're big numbers. It's just because the idea is when I get the money, I reinvest it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't really touch the money. Basically the system I have is when I get the money, for example, 100 grand, I pay my management company like 1%.
yeah.
Right. And then invest the rest.
Yeah.
1% to live. Right.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
the idea is to build this massive like portfolio.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's honestly the way I grew so fast.
How-
because
Oh, my bad.
go ahead.
No, my question was
Yeah.
like this. So like working as an investor and trying to
Yeah.
build yourself as an investor, when did you take the lead to change from investor now to a leader to share your information?
Well, that's a good question because I think once I did that deal, I started sharing my journey, right? Started kind of, I don't know who told me. I think maybe I went to a seminar or something and they're like, oh, maybe it was even Grant Cardone because I was following him and he kept saying like, you got to share your journey. You got to show people what you're doing, right? Like, because you get, at the end of the day, you can build your brand and all that stuff, right? And I wasn't really big into social media, but I was just sharing like what I was doing and, progress. So and then people would reach out and I would just help them, give some advice. Right. But it was interesting on that deal. It was a big learning because I was at a point where I had a lot of properties and I couldn't manage it myself. I even was hiring people to help me, and it was just not manageable, right? So I had to hire a third-party management company, which was a huge wake-up call because once I did that, I realized a lot of these deals that I was doing, I didn't factor in management costs properly. And then as soon as I had this third-party management company, a lot of those properties weren't cash flowing. So now I was in a situation, right? So, and then the other thing about a management company is they don't really care about saving you that much money, right? Compared to how much you would save yourself if you were running your own properties, right? So you got to also factor that in, which was new for me. So here I was with this, at that age, a decent sized portfolio, and I wasn't really making a lot of money. Yeah. Right. So I had a decision to make. It's either take a step back and kind of re-strategize or go bankrupt. Right. So I'm like, I'm not going bankrupt. Right. So I took a step back and told myself that, I created a strategy, and the strategy was I needed to go bigger. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah. Go big, double down.
Can you explain that to us?
Yes. So the idea is, for example, a duplex, triplex, fourplex. They have 4 units. They will create a certain amount of cash flow, if you bought it properly, right? But now if you look at a 20-unit building, right, it has 20 units. It's usually all self-containing. With that, at that time, when I analyzed a deal that had 20 units, it supported management, it supported everything, and it still cash flowed more than like half my portfolio. Yeah. Right. So just doing those numbers, right? And I also, the one point I also really liked was all these small properties, the banks focus on your income, your credit, and all that stuff. On these big properties, the banks care but don't really care, right? They want to know you're, have a decent credit, but like they really care about the property. Yeah. If the numbers work and if, good location, right? Operating properly. So I really like that aspect. And then that transition, and that's what I had to do. So I sold half the portfolio, transitioned into that one building, and guess what? It was like literally in North Bay, right? So super far away from me, and everyone's laughing at me. Why are you going all the way out there, right? And I'm like, well, I gotta try it, right? So,
what was there like a big barrier in the mindset to like invest like so far away?
Oh yeah.
How did you overcome that?
It's that mindset. You'll do whatever it takes. Don't get me wrong. You got to do your market research. I'm not saying just look at a property and blindly invest, right? You got to do your market research. I knew that North Bay wasn't a bad city. It was relatively close to Toronto, right? And kind of stable at the time when I purchased it. The property that I found cash flowed and it was distressed, right? That's one thing that I really liked. And then when I went to see it, it was actually in a really good area, right? So I've always learned is if you buy a distressed asset in a good location, it's very hard to lose, right? So, and that's why I capitalized on that opportunity. I did that, sold half the portfolio, invested out there. That deal, I think, again, took a year and a half, but that one was a big eye opener because as soon as I closed, yes, it took a little bit more work to kind of set up things. Like I had to, vet management companies. I had to, because this was like, I think it was 23, 24 units, right? So it's a lot to take on. It was, so you had to do a lot more due diligence up front, but once I closed, I realized, oh, wow, like this management company is helping me almost do everything, right? I realized I didn't really have to be involved. I was because I wanted to learn and understand the process, right? But I'm like, okay, wow, like I really don't have much responsibility here. So I did help with the renovations, but they did most of it. And then once the property was done, the biggest eye opener was, so I was like refinancing 100 here, 200 there, 800,000.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So 800,000 on the first refi. Right. And I was just like, okay, this is where I'm going to stay.
This is
I
want to stay in the multifamily.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's just, and that when you get a check for like 800 grand tax free, right? Yeah. You're just like, wow. Right. Yeah. This is the power of real estate.
Yeah. Throughout your journey, it seems like obviously you had to deal with a lot of people, and people are the hardest things to deal with. There's so many a spectrum of people, you know what I mean? So where did you learn how to negotiate, how to talk to people?
When you're getting into this business, you're just like thrown into it, right? So as soon as you buy a property, you're literally dealing with tenants, right? So I thankfully had a lot of good tenants, and even it's funny, even the drug dealers, they were like pretty respectful, like to some kind of level, right? Like they didn't really like, give me a problem. They just wanted their, I negotiated some money and then they left, right? Yeah. So, but it's all learning, it's all negotiating. You learn through the process, right? But then when you start to build your portfolio and you got more and more properties, you're going to be dealing with more and more tenants. Yeah. Right. And it was only when I sold half the portfolio and then also I bought that 20 plus unit, then I started realizing, I don't have to deal with tenants anymore. Right. And then I'm like, oh, wow, this is nice. I'm now, and here's the most important thing I learned buying that deal. I now am starting to work on the business rather than in the business, right? Because before I was doing all the management and all the, management's duties, right? Yeah. That's working in your business. That's not helping your business grow. That's maintaining your business. Yeah, yeah. As soon as you get, as soon as you hire a management company and, you start to get more assets and grow the company, you're working on your business. Yeah. That's growing your business, right?
So it's like the one book I read, like Who Not How. Yes. You got to focus on like who can do it for you as opposed to how you're going to do everything, because you can go crazy doing everything. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you only have a certain amount of time. Right? Yeah. Like you can't do everything.
Was it hard for you to let go of the business? Because like it's your baby, right? You're taking care of it all the time. Yes. And then now it's the management business.
I still remember the feeling, thinking that I need to sell half of this, right? And it took me so long to build. Yeah. And the idea of like selling half of it and just investing in one property, but overcoming that and then realizing it was probably the best decision I made, right? You got to do it.
Who are you talking to when these thoughts are going through your mind? Like,
I think at the time, I'm just thinking, I did go to a lot of networking events, right? So I throw ideas off of people that had buildings, right? And I think that's kind of what helped. I never really had like someone hold my hand to like, show me, buy this. Trust me, I would have, if I did, I would have gotten to where I am today 10 times faster. Yeah. 100%. Like and that's what I even tell people. If you want to go from, 1 to 100 really quickly, just find somebody that's already there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And sometimes you might have to pay, but they will get you there 10 times faster. Yeah. 100%. So that's simple. Right. Yeah. So,
yeah. And once you acquired that property in North Bay, like you said, it started clicking for the multifamily. Yes. So you started rolling into the multis
exactly. Yeah. Right. I just literally started rolling into the multis. This is now, I'm just trying to think. This is now after that, this is, pandemic starting to happen and, stuff. And then I'm getting some interesting tenants that are professional tenants. Jeez. Had one tenant that literally didn't pay for a whole year, right? And then trashed the place. So I then started doing market research outside of Ontario. And then that's when I found Saskatoon. Yeah. Right. Saskatoon was a very up and coming city, lots of immigration coming into the city. The laws for landlords were favorable to landlords. And when buying the properties, just the value ratios were better, right? Because I could go in at a good price and then, increase the value and then refinance on the exit and make money.
Yeah.
It was getting hard to do that in Ontario.
Yeah. And like, what's the biggest barrier of going out of province now? You know what I mean? Like you went like 6 hours away, 8 hours away. Now it's like, holy, you got to take a plane.
Exactly.
So like, what was like the stress you were going through during those times, or was there any? Or
well, I think the property in North Bay helped me understand that the location doesn't matter. True. Right? In terms of the distance, right? If it's in a good location, that's what matters, right? The property itself, right? But wherever it is, it doesn't really matter, especially when you're dealing with those types of assets, like big ones like that, right? Because at the end of the day, you're buying them, half the time they come with management, right? Or then you find management that, you know, the property can support can financially support management. Yeah. Right. So if the property can support management, it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah.
Right. It can be wherever. It can
That's
be
true.
Anywhere in the world. Right.
Yeah.
Was there a location you dove into that got real sticky for you?
So I have bought in like some low end areas, which I'll never buy again. Right. Learning. Right. But I think that's I think I've only bought one property in kind of like more a low end area. Yeah. But that's why I say location's key.
Were there indicators that like you should have picked up on that you didn't, that kind of identified it as that?
So I knew it was like, and that's the thing, I think, and it was, I think the first or the second deal I did in Saskatoon, the realtor I met, very transparent, very honest, and he was telling me all this stuff, right? And I knew that, but I had a different plan for that property, and it worked out because I made, even though it was in the not like a great area, I still made $200,000, right? And then I used that to put into the next property, which I made 400, then the next property, right? And then just recycle, right? So it worked out, but does that property give me a headache? Sure, right? But because it's, iffy, and well, to be honest, it probably gives my manager, it probably gives my property manager more of a headache than me, right? But, then I hear the complaints from my property manager, and he's just like, oh, it's a hard property, and that's what it is. Right?
And what other regions in Canada are you invested in?
So right now, Ontario, Saskatoon, and Alberta. Yeah,
so pretty diverse across Canada.
Yes.
Have you ever thought about like cross-border investing?
I do plan to enter into the States by the end of this year.
Okay, nice. And any states in particular? Or?
Still doing some market research. I don't want to. I know everybody's in Texas, right? But
Texas and Miami, baby.
Yeah, Texas and Miami for sure.
Right, but I want to. I do follow, who's that one, Ken McLemore. And he gives kind of good insights on like some of the locations to kind of focus on. I like his advice. So he gave me not me, but like just gave everybody like a list of states to focus on.
Yeah. And for the audience listening, like what would you say is like a few sort of things that were your biggest obstacles, like getting through real estate? And then obviously like the couple benefits, which I think you already stated.
Yeah, literally.
So what were the barriers of getting through real estate?
Yeah, like getting through that whole journey. You started on duplexes, triplexes, and apartments, and
back
then
against the wall, stuff like that.
I think there's going to be a lot of roadblocks, right? So I think my biggest challenge, like thinking back at it, was I bought this one property, and it took me, I don't know, maybe 6 months to most of the year to save up to buy it. But now I bought it. Now I'm out of money, right? Now you got to figure out, okay, do you wait another 6 months to a year to buy another one? Or do you try to get creative or partner up with somebody to grow that portfolio, right? So those are the roadblocks you're going to kind of come up with or come and hit. But another roadblock is sometimes the plan doesn't go to how you envisioned it. For example, I know on some of the project that I plan to renovate, the tenants don't leave, right? And the tenants give you a hard time. Or the one project was the tenant was a professional, right? And made all these problems, right? And knew what she was doing, right? So these are things that come with real estate, but you need to have that mindset. Okay, got to just solve the problem quickly. And sometimes paying the tenant out, maybe like $1,000 just to leave, might be the fastest way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Right. So you just got to be able to like think quickly and not stress when things don't go according to plan.
Yeah.
So
we keep bringing up these professionals, and I think we all know a little bit about them. Do you think it's becoming more prevalent, especially with like social media spreading, I guess a battle almost in a way? That's kind of how I envision it.
And it's a sticky topic because, you know, you don't want to promote. There are bad landlords, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially in Ontario. There are bad landlords that literally exploit tenants, right? So I understand that, right? But at the same time, there are definitely a lot of bad tenants that exploit the system, right? And know that it's going to be hard for that landlord to kick them out, right? I think personally that should be illegal because that tenant is stealing, right? Yeah. If you have no intentions to pay, you're technically stealing, right? I think, yes, to answer the question, yes, I think social media is kind of sometimes pushing a narrative. Okay, know your rights, right? Know your rights doesn't mean not pay, right? Know your rights in terms of, you know, okay, like if you know the landlord can't come in and just kick you out, right? Can't come in and be like, oh, I'm renovating the place, get out of here. They can't do that, right? But I think it needs to be clear enough where you need the media and the government needs to say like you need to pay, right, to live, right? Because if you're not paying, the landlord's paying it.
Yeah.
So it's just the media. Yeah, I mean, the media is the media.
Yeah. And it's one thing doing real estate, but like, have you dabbled into like the private loans and like you being the passive partner as opposed to the active partner?
I have.
And how has that worked for you, or like what's the differences there?
I have. I'm not like, it's probably something that I'd do more when I'm older.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
so you're still in the game. You're still,
exactly.
You're still
I like the games, right?
Yeah.
So, right. Young enough where I like the game, and I think I built a portfolio, right? And now I kind of I've created another company where I'm going to be building it with people, with investors, with partners, the ones that want to learn, right? Teach them. But I know the strategy that I'm doing has greatly benefited myself. So I now kind of want to partner up with other people and just do the same strategy.
And what's that company?
So that company is Prick.
Okay.
Right. So, so what the company you mentioned before is my personal company, the Pityn Organization. And that's kind of the main company that I've built my own personal portfolio. But now Prick is basically going to be doing the same thing, but with people.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, okay. The idea of coming together in a partnership.
Yeah. And I did notice that you do give back a lot too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? How important is that to you, and why do you do that?
Yes, I think it's extremely important. Like I think, and it's also, you know, it's how I was raised, right? My parents were really about giving back. They made good money and they would always give back to people. So I saw that growing up. I think that's important. Especially to the people that maybe don't have the means. It can be financially, but it also can be, you know, in terms of education, right? Yeah. Before I definitely took a lot of calls, just random calls, people trying to, you know, pick my brain and had an idea or a deal on the go and just gave them my advice, right? Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, it's hard to do that now when, you know, you got a lot of those people calling, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm now trying to kind of create a community and kind of help people when I have the time and kind of show them kind of the back end of what I'm doing and the process of buying a property and, you know, or building and refinancing and, you know, growing your portfolio.
Yeah. And how can people join that community if they want to be a part of it?
So that community is called Kingdom of Wealth, and you can join it. I believe if the link is on my bio.
Okay.
We'll plug that in.
Yeah, it's fairly new. We're kind of creating it. So yeah, again, the idea is just to show people kind of what I've built and then show them the process of kind of creating real generational wealth.
Yeah. And it seems like you're a businessman, obviously, right? Yeah, it's not just real estate. You know what I mean? Like you're building businesses.
Exactly.
So like, where did that passion come from?
So after the realist, I think it was honestly after the big deal. Yes. After the big deal I did, I started realizing I'm going to need people like-minded people in terms of like, you know, partnering up to scale, right? At the end of the day, if you want to achieve some level of like, you know, excellence, you're going to need other people in some kind of way, right? To help you kind of reach those points. So after that one deal, I told myself, you know, I had a passion for cars, right? I love cars, right? And I think it was, I don't know what deal. I think it was a deal before the big deal. I was able to buy my dream car, which was the Lamborghini Huracan. Right. I did that, but you know, I think it was also how I was raised, where my parents always told me, you know, you shouldn't really have depreciating assets just sitting there. Right. So that's kind of where I thought to myself, okay, like, how can I mix a passion with business? Right. So that's kind of where the exotic cars came. The idea of the Lux exotic cars came. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if I had a luxury exotic company, I could, you know, indulge in some nice cars, but also make money out of it.
Yeah, of course.
So kind of that idea. And then also, you know, had conversations with my cousin, and he was kind of an entrepreneur himself. And we kind of kicked that off there. That was the one business. And then I always had the idea of luxury properties, right? Because I love staying at them. I love to travel. And when I travel, I think that's my guilty pleasure. Like, I don't mind. The Lambo, honestly, like, it's nice, but I bought it because it was on my vision board. What really gets me like motivated and like, you know, kind of relaxed at the same time is, you know, achieving a goal, but then going on like a nice trip. And not really working for like those a week or two, and just maybe it's in like Hawaii or wherever you want to go. But it's like, and you go all out, like you luxury, you know, you go on a boat ride, maybe a helicopter ride. And it's just,
of course,
it's like, right. And at the end of the day, if that's not what you like, you do what you like. Right. But for me, I enjoy that.
Would you say that's kind of like your outlet? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like you're working like 24/7. A lot of people burn out, right? Would you say that's how you kind of like, I guess, like
rejuvenate?
Yeah, rejuvenate.
Exactly. It's a rejuvenation, right? Because I think what I like about it is, especially when you're around like good people, right? It's nice because you're on this adventure, right? In this, you know, nice luxury destination with people that you care about. Right? Could be family members, could be your girlfriend, could be your partners, right? But it's I think there's a lot more meaning with building, you know, lasting relationships.
And would you say there's lessons in traveling? Like have you learned or been able to vision more when you're somewhere else?
Yes. And I think that's so important. It's not you have this, when you go to a new destination, you're like, you know, indulge in the culture, right? So your mind just like gets lifted with being more worldly, but also you literally, I don't know, I feel sometimes ideas just flow to you because you're more in like, I don't want to say Zen, but like you're more relaxed. You're more just kind of like, you know, not constantly thinking about putting out fires or the next deal, right? You're just more and more of a relaxed state. And if you're with your business partners or, you know, good people, they're floating ideas to you and just like, oh, like, what if we did this? And you're just more relaxed about it. I think it's just a beautiful place to like think of.
And it's like your mind doesn't open up like in London doing that.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like you kind of have to be out there and doing that.
Would you say have you heard of the Muse, for example? So the Muse is essentially like almost, a lot of time it's like somebody who bards music or plays music, but being in a certain environment that can be the muse to the catalyst of getting to the next step.
I have not heard of that. That sounds interesting though. Interesting.
So a lot of people will go on vacations because it's when you can fully, I guess, embrace who you are as a person by removing yourself from, I guess, your cage, which is work.
I totally agree with that. Right. I do agree with that because at the end of the day, like if you have an office or if you're, you know, in a certain city and you're constantly there, I think the new exposure to like a destination kind of opens your mind a bit, right? To like new ideas, new anything, right? It's just, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
What's been your favorite place to travel to?
I do like the recent place was Europe. So Italy, went to Athens. I did like Brazil though. Brazil, because I went on a helicopter ride and it was beautiful.
Yeah,
just the scenery, like it was. I don't know. I think that was the nicest place, like in a helicopter.
Yeah. Of course,
real view.
That was beautiful. And it was,
Yeah, and what's the difference for you of like building a brand and building a business? Because it seems like now you're building a brand around yourself. Like I said, people know you as Mr. Pityn. It's not your first name; it's Mr. Pityn. It sounds like more like a Mongol, right?
Yeah.
So like what's the difference between brand building and business building?
I think the difference between a brand, it's almost like a statement of not just who you are, but like what you believe, your principles, your values, right? Building a business is, in my opinion, just more operations and scale and numbers, right? And building a business, I'm very analytical. So just like, okay, we're in the red, right? We need to get to green. And then how do we scale next year, right?
Yeah.
So it's just more, but then when you look at building a brand, it's just like, do people resonate with that brand, right? Like, what does that brand stand for? Like, I think there's just a lot more aspects to building a brand than building a business.
Yeah, and building your business, were you the visionary and the integrator, or did you have someone who was able to like, balance you in any way?
That's a good question. At first I was like everything, right? So I think everyone can like, resonate with that. But I think it's very important once you get to a certain stage is you start to outsource, right? And if you don't outsource, you just won't grow.
Yeah.
Right. And I've met those people that are very like, they're either scared or they just feel like they can do it better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, sure, you can do it better, but you won't grow. Yeah. That's that simple, right? Because you will not be able to grow with other people without other people.
Yeah.
Right. And trust me, I was one of those people, right? That, like, I don't want anyone touching my business, my baby, but like, stagnant. Right?
Yeah.
As soon as I started thinking outside the box and say like, well, I'm not really a good property manager, to be honest. I'm not really a good contractor, right? Like, I don't like, I renovate because I have to, right?
Yeah.
Not really because I want to, right? So once I started replacing myself, then that's when I started seeing results.
Yeah.
What was your fear before, and now what is your fear now?
Yeah. My fear now is it's something that I gotta like, sometimes have to talk to myself about, but it's not growing fast enough.
Okay.
Right. It's like I have these big goals, right? And I think this is what helps me get really focused. And these little things like, going to clubs and all this other stuff doesn't really faze me because my vision is just so clear on what I want to do. So I just get very focused, laser focused on these aspects of things that need to be accomplished. But I think sometimes the fear comes in and it's just like, am I doing enough? Right. So
it's just crazy because to the outside world, it's like you're doing everything.
Yeah, you're fearless.
I know.
Right.
I know. But
so what was it before then?
I guess it's perspective, right? Because like, and I've heard people, and my parents are always saying that, hey, like you gotta settle down, like,
relax.
And I even had my uncle and some family members like, when's enough?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm trying to process that. I'm like, what does he mean? What does that mean? Like, when's enough? There's never right? Enough. So it's just like, there's just like, once you hit this, there's something else, right?
Yeah.
It's the journey.
Yeah. And what would you say is your why? You know what I mean? To keep that fire like lit.
Yeah. My why is not just I want to make a statement that it is possible, right? That, hey, it came from nothing, right? That came from nothing. If you really want it, you can make it, right? I want to make that statement, but also the idea of being able to provide for your family, for your parents, and, you know, for your loved ones, and even, hey, like your brothers and sisters, when they get into some financial issues, be able to like provide for them. I think that's just, I don't know. There's something about that.
Yeah.
Right?
100% agree.
So I definitely, I'm not trying to be that person that, hey, you got money, I want some of that. Right?
Yeah.
I want to be that person that, like, you know, can help when needed.
Yeah.
Right? And then I also love giving back, and we've had a couple charity events last year. I'm gonna try to do a couple more this year. I love to do those. Love kids.
They were the backpack events, correct?
Sorry?
The
Yes.
backpack events.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To bring some highlight on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
what was that event? Were you providing backpacks?
Didn't you go
then
back to
too?
Colombia, if I'm correct?
yeah, we did. Yeah, we did a couple.
Yeah, let's
events.
highlight that because
yes.
people need to hear it. It's like So like, sorry to kind of chime in and cut you there, but yeah, it was a backpack event in Colombia.
Yes. So we did a couple events. The first event we did in Colombia, both in Colombia, one in Barranquilla, which we went to a very poor area, and we were giving them like supplies, right? And then that one did well, right? And they loved it, right? And it was amazing, right? It was just, it's crazy to see some of those kids. They're not on phones, right? They don't. Some of them don't even have like any shoes, any clothes, right? But they're just having a great time, right? They enjoy life, right? So, and to have a stranger come into the world and just give them stuff, they're just so grateful, right? So it's nice to see that. It's nice to just help, right? And then the last one we did was in November. It was in this very isolated community in Cartagena, and we had the help of the, I believe, Colombian Navy. And we basically went into this isolated community and gave them backpacks, school supplies, right? They sung us some songs in their school, and it was like a big kind of thing, because I have some videos about it where they kind of gathered in this, like, I think a baseball field, and kind of made a presentation about it, right? So it was, but they were just so like grateful.
Yeah. And how were you able to connect with the Colombian Navy?
So I had the partner out there. He had really good connections with them. So
Networking goes back to networking.
It's all people, man. I'm telling you.
Exactly. Literally. Right. And that's the key, man. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's people. Right. Yeah. You need to build relationships with people.
Yeah. And like, I know back in the day, you used to be a good soccer player here.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I haven't played soccer for a while, but yes, I actually have. Yeah.
So that competitive nature, like, would you say that kind of like attributes to why you're so competitive in business?
100%. And it's actually a funny story. I literally got out of soccer because I didn't want to lose. I was sick and tired of losing. Right.
And I was team.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I was on a pretty like high level team at that when I was young. And we started we were doing well, and then we started losing. And I'm just like, and I was the guy putting hours on hours, you know, of my own time running and building skills. And I just felt like my team wasn't doing the same. So I'm just like, I just at a point got fed up with it. I'm like, I need to be something where I can win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what drove me to business.
Yeah. That's interesting. And do you see business as a sport?
I do.
Yeah.
Right. I do, because at the end of the day, you can lose in business. You just lose money.
Yeah. Facts.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's interesting because I feel like we talk to a lot of people where like that competitive nature does brew from sports.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like you just turn it into business, and it's just a different monster.
Exactly.
Right? Because you have a bunch of people competing in business. It's like,
it was funny because like I heard Rogan talking about it. He used to play, I forget what sport specifically. He used to get mad everyone lost. Baseball. Yeah. He was talking about it. He's like, I could hit a home run, and I didn't care if I didn't hit the home run. I wanted to hit it.
Yes.
And it came back to him wanting to prove so much. So then he went to fighting, to archery, where it's a single sport, where you can only count on yourself. And it's like, I guess that's kind of business in a way, no?
It is. But I also learned, and it was interesting because I did get into business knowing that, hey, I can count on myself. 100% of my efforts will get me the results, right? Yeah. And that is true to a certain level, right? And then there's only so much you can do before you now need to connect with other people. Yeah. And you need to bring on team members, right? People that align with your vision, and you align with their vision, and you grow together.
Yeah.
That village mindset.
And then I didn't want to be on a team, but then got into business, and then now I'm at a point I need to be on a team again. Right?
Of course. Yeah. And like as an entrepreneur, like obviously you're not having people tell you what to do, right? So how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you make sure that you're like getting your stuff done every single day?
Well, I think you also have to kind of put the ego aside, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, life is choices. You know, at the end of the day, you can tell yourself, oh, I don't have to listen to my boss, but you're going to get fired, right? So if you have team members and if they know better, right, and you don't listen to them, right, even if you're the boss, but maybe you have a marketing guy or maybe you have this guy over here telling you what to do, but he knows best, you might want to listen because he might get you the results, right? So yes, I think some people just need to kind of be a little bit more humble about things and, you know, lead when it's necessary. But also if you're not that expert in that, you know, field, maybe take a back seat and be, you know, learn.
Yeah. Right? And like once you start like onboarding other people into your business, like how are you scouting them? Because I'm sure that their vision has to be aligned or else it's not going to work, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of turnover, right? Like, but I think what I've noticed is the winners do stick out. Like the people that really want it, they kind of show you, like, and they show you pretty quickly. The people that, you know, follow the rules and like that are just like, you know, they're smart and they just do what they're told. They're good, right? But I find the go-getters really stick out. Yeah, you can almost feel their energy.
Yeah,
right. So
and is that what you focus on? Is go-getters like
you want? Some of them, but the go-getters are probably not going to stick around for a long time.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
They're going to want more.
Exactly.
And if you can't give them more, then they got to go somewhere else.
And this is why that's why I'm kind of excited for the pre-IC because I structured it in a way where I want to bring on go-getters and want to give them part of the company, right? That's the idea. And that's kind of the idea on future businesses. It's creating a win-win, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have like 10 go-getters, like think anything's possible.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? If you have 10 hungry people, just like going for it.
It makes me think how you said before, like structuring the deal almost in a way. It's like, how can I make 10 of these guys win instead of 5 or 8 or even 9, right? It's like, how can I make all of them feel that they're appreciated?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And a lot of people focus on like, oh, how do I make the most money here? Yeah. Right. But, you know, what do you do after this deal? Right. Then if you're focusing on yourself, what do you do after this deal? You're going to keep focusing on the single-minded where you're going to always have to do it yourself. Yeah. Right. But if you focus on kind of a strategy where, okay, after this deal, then maybe if I have 2 or 3 of these go-getters, but I give them a portion, right? We could probably do maybe not 1, but 10 of these deals.
Yeah. 6 go-getters with only working with 2.
Yeah. Right. You can just scale. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's all about like the collaboration and not looking at someone as like not someone to collab with, right? Like it's like people in business, I feel like they find like, oh, this is my competition. Like I own a cleaning company, for example, and like I'm not looking at bigger cleaning companies as competition. It's more like, how can I help you? How can I help you? And I feel like in the business world, that's really what propels.
Yes, definitely being. Yeah, you got to just think of it in a different way. Like a lot of people think of it in more competition, right? But if you think of it in more of a collaboration, you definitely can make more. Like you can definitely make more business together.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And at this stage right now, where you're at, like, what are you focusing on right now?
I'm focusing on right now, I think 2 things. It's one, pre-IC, right? Yeah. And kind of growing that. Want to grow it in Canada and the States. And then also the community, because I think the community, which is, totally going blank here.
It's the Lux, right?
It was
Kingdom of Wealth.
Kingdom of Wealth.
I literally went blank there. So yeah, focusing on the community, just because at the end of the day, like it's a way to give back, right?
Yeah.
And I do enjoy doing like giving back, and then also pre-IC.
So, yeah, because I've seen a lot of those videos that you're promoting there, and like who doesn't want to be a part of that? Yeah, right. Like who doesn't want to be like in those countries, you know, the beautiful
Exactly.
cars,
lifestyle,
the
that
beautiful
lifestyle
ladies,
stuff.
you know what I mean? The lifestyle.
It sells
Yeah.
itself at the end of it, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it's important.
It is important, but I think, I think the takeaway is, you do it when you're in a position where you feel like, okay, this is a win, I'm going to celebrate, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys, a lot of people in general, well, oh, that looks like a fun place to travel and have fun. What are you celebrating?
True.
yeah.
Like, what are you celebrating?
Yeah.
Like, you can go there. You can jump on a plane and go there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of women, right? A lot of fun. But what are you celebrating?
Yeah.
Right. So I think once you get to a point where, hey, like, I worked hard, let's celebrate.
When do you know it's time to celebrate?
That's why you have to get clear on your goals, right?
Mhm.
Goals. And it needs to be, in my opinion, goals that kind of scare you,
Yeah.
right? And then you hit those, then you can celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What were those goals for you?
Well, I think the big project, which I did myself and I probably won't do again, right? But that one was a big goal. And I told myself after that one, I think buy the Rolex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What project was that one?
that one was the 70s, I think, the 72 unit project. Yeah. Yeah. So
Sound like cop on that one.
That's
it was
huge,
the
man.
biggest
So-
one I've done, right? By myself, right? So it's just like, I structured it in a way, but I had like, it sounds big, but at the end of the day, keep in mind, like, I've been in this business for like, a decade now,
Yeah.
right? And my strategy is going bigger each time. So it's, looking back at the track record, it makes sense, right?
Mhm.
But for me, doing that and then realizing once it was done and seeing that the total profits I made from that deal was $3 million.
Jeez, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
seeing that was just like, wow, like, what's next?
Oh, yeah. I love that, bro.
What's next?
I love how like you're
Yeah.
just like still hungry though.
Yeah.
You know, like
What's
these big
next?
numbers are enough
Yeah.
for people to be like, yo, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm retired. I'm done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
But for you, it's just like, hey, what's next?
Yeah.
But what really opened my
Never
mind is just
happy.
like what, how much could this be with the right people?
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
The network.
right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Because did this on my own, but like, imagine like we had like
5 other use.
5 go-getters, right?
Yeah,
How big
yeah.
could this be? Right.
Yeah.
That's what excites me.
Yeah. And would you say you as a little kid,
Yeah.
Would you be happy of the man you are today? And did you know you were gonna get there?
I think it's interesting. As a little kid, I was very entrepreneurial. I like business. I like, building things, but to where I am, it would be hard to say I saw that. I just knew that it'd be successful, like in some form, right?
Yeah.
Did I know it would be, and it's,
So would Elliot be happy with Elliot today?
and that's it. It's such a, it sounds like an easy question, but for me to
not.
answer, it's not, because like,
Yeah.
I don't really think I made it, right? Like, I know that sounds strange to
Yeah,
hear,
no,
but
it's
like, I
good.
really
Fair
don't.
enough, though, yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like just getting started, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've had some wins, right? But I think, there's a lot more to do.
Yeah.
He's
Right,
still
so-
looking up. He's still looking
Yeah.
up towards like what more you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always ask that question because I always feel like the little kid of like all of us
Yeah.
is like that person who's a dreamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no limits. If you could
Yes.
satisfy a little kid, I feel like that's when you really made it
Yeah.
in a way.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I always like to ask that question. It's super interesting.
It is interesting. And I think one thing that I do need to start working on, and I have been trying, is being grateful, right?
Mhm.
And gratitude, just because at the end of the day, it's almost like counterintuitive of what I said before, of like just almost wanting more and more,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? But sometimes you do need to take a step back, realize how far you came,
Yeah.
Mhm.
be grateful for that, be grateful for the stuff that definitely money can't buy, like, good relationships, friends, family, right?
Health.
Health,
health.
right? So And I think that's very important to kind of realize that and take a step back sometimes and like think about that stuff.
And how do you take that step back? Because I know you said it's kind of hard for you to, you know.
I think making an effort around family, right, and really being present. Because I know I can even vividly see it in my mind where there's been family dinners where I'm just literally on my phone closing deals or just negotiating, right? Yeah. And even in relationships. So just, you need to be present, right? Especially where it matters, where it's family. And at the end of the day, like, you know, your parents aren't getting any younger, right? Yeah. And family is everything, right? At the end of the day, like something could happen and never see, you know, a parent or a sibling again. And imagine if you were just never present.
Yeah, it's the one thing money can't fix.
Exactly, money can never fix that, right? So it's just being self-aware of those things, right?
Yeah. So no, 100%, and like that's like important because I feel like, you know, like being an entrepreneur, being so successful, it's like how do you ground yourself? Right. And it's a tough balance because you can't ground yourself too long or else you're stuck. You're stuck.
You're stuck. And then you're the problem now. And then how can you grow and show everyone that what you're supposed to be?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like in the world of entrepreneurship, you know, growing a business, there's not going to be any balance really. Right. Like you're going to try. Right. But there's going to be days you're going to have to grind. Right. Yeah. There's going to be days that you're going to have to be putting out fires. There's going to be days that you're going to have to build and scale. Yeah. Right. And there's going to be family days, right? There's going to be days that you take a step back and, you know, be more, you know, show more gratitude and spend more time with family and maybe your children, but it's going to be that inconsistent pattern.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, And were you always a leader or is that something you had to develop yourself into?
Looking back at it, I feel I wasn't like one of those people that, oh, it's my way, the highway. I just feel people just followed what I did.
Naturally.
Right? Like naturally. So I'm like, you know, trying to be careful on how I say that, but like just even looking back at it, like even in public school, people were like, my friend circle were always asking me, oh, what do you want to do? Right? Like they were just, you know, coming to me for like what we did. Having any parties this weekend, what's going on this weekend. Yeah, gravitation. Exactly. Right. So, and it's maybe just because I had the answers, right? Yeah. Right? And I just knew what I wanted to do. Right. So, and I think that's what it is. Like sometimes people gravitate to the people that have the answers and know what they want. Right. And I think that's very important. You need to know what you want.
Surround yourself around the right people.
And having that investor mindset where you said you're getting like, you know, these big chunks of money in the refinance, like, is it hard for you to have to put that into another asset or is that just another muscle in you where you're like, okay, like it's not my money, let's keep on growing?
Surprisingly, it's not hard, right? I think, you know, if you're the person that is in that lifestyle arena already, where you're around women, you're around that fancy stuff, right? I know my life on social media looks like that, but I want to say 90% of my life is working.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's what a lot of people need to understand. The lifestyle on social media is not necessarily correct, right? Because most of my life is literally grinding.
Yeah.
10%, sure, on trips on this, right? But most of it's grinding. So I think if you're submerged in that lifestyle, and I think at that point, it might be difficult for you to get a lot of money and tell yourself, okay, well, I have all this money. Maybe I should buy a nice car, or maybe I should go on this extravagant trip, right? But if you're constantly working and you're 90% of your time is literally grinding, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah.
Because what I do is, again, when I started, put 1 to 1.5% of what I make, right? And at the beginning it was like 100, 200 grand, right? 1 to 1.5% of that. Even if it's like $1 million, 1.5% of that, and then that's what I live on.
Yeah. No, that's a very like militant sort of mindset.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Discipline.
Yeah. Yes. And that discipline, like where did that come from?
I think it's came from a lot of reading, because I did a lot of reading back in the day. Listen to a lot of motivational audios, and it's literally, I think that's so important. Like a lot of people listen to like, you know, music, and I think music is beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think what's important is like understanding, and this is the biggest thing, being self-aware of what you're listening to. Yeah. Is it positive, right? Mm-hmm. Is the music you're listening to positive, right? Because if it's not, it's going to alter how you view and your perception on life, right? Yeah. So I really am self-aware on what I listen to, what I absorb, the content I absorb, and it helps me kind of get really disciplined, right? It's almost like I'm brainwashing myself.
Yeah.
One-to-one.
Yeah. And would you say that like you're someone who believes in like manifestation? Because like online you hear manifestation, all these girls are online on Instagram, I manifest this and I'm gonna get this, but without the hard work behind it, right? Like, is that something that you believe in, or is that something that
I do believe in manifestation? But that's a great example actually, because you know, you go on social media and people will be like, oh, I manifest this, but they're like, you know, behind closed doors are doing things that are literally basically counterintuitive on getting them to what they want, right? So it's just like, at the end of the day, you can manifest something, but if you're not doing the things to actually get you there, you're just dreaming.
The one line I heard is manifestation without hard work is just luck.
Exactly. Right. So like I can dream that I want like a, you know, beautiful home on the water, but if I'm going to clubs every night and just like, you know, not caring about hustling, am I gonna get there?
Yeah, exactly.
I can still manifest it, right? It's not gonna get there.
I feel like it's just like a sales pitch nowadays. You know, like, oh, come here, we know how to manifest. It's just like to sell, like an idea.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. I think, and what I heard, and this is kind of the secret on all those kind of, you know, I got to be careful on how I word this, because like, but why it's very attractive, because it's not really like measurable, right? Like people can sell that stuff, but like you can't say, oh, like in terms of results, like how can you really measure that? Like in terms of your client's results, right? Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, I think it's important because it helped me, right? Yeah. It helps the right people that want it. But there's someone that's, for example, that model, or that kind of like your example, that wants to manifest and then sees some ad like that and gets, you know, convinced to go in there or convinced to be a part of that group, but then quits like a month later, right? At the end of the day, she can't really complain because she didn't do the work, right? Compared to me going in there, me getting motivated and like blowing it out of the water. I think the difference is I already had the mindset that I'm going to do whatever it takes. Besides that, the model's thinking, oh, it's going to be easy. Right. I think that's just the difference.
That's the key to it.
And like being motivated is just temporary. You know what I mean? Like,
motivation,
like you can you can come out of an event, you be like, yo, I'm gonna do this and this and that, and then you go home and you do the same shit.
Exactly. And on that part, I tell people that motivation, I don't think you should rely on motivation. I think what you should actually focus on is discipline. Right. Motivation, just like you said, is temporary. Gets you kind of fired up, but then, you know, 2 hours later you're like, oh, like, you know,
gets you through the door.
That's
all it does.
Gets you exactly. So,
and
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, in regards to real estate and like your journey, like is underwriting sort of the most important aspect of it?
The numbers, yes. Well, there's lots of factors. I think underwriting is definitely very important, because if you underwrite a deal wrong, you might lose money. Right. The great part about real estate is if you buy in a good location, and depending on what you buy, like how you buy it, you can still over time correct it. Right. So like I bought a property and I over leveraged it. It was only I think it was a triplex, but I over leveraged it to buy it. Right. That's risky. Right. And if the market didn't turn or went totally negative, like where it is now with high interest rates, I would have lost a lot of money. Excuse me. But because the market obviously went up, right, I made a lot of money. Right. But again, you know, you need to understand the numbers, and the way I bought a lot of the properties was with leverage. And you need to understand high leverage. Yes, you can scale your portfolio quickly, but in a down market, you can literally go bankrupt.
A lot of people have been squeezed out.
Exactly.
And what different strategies are you implementing now in the market that we're in right now compared to 2 years ago?
I'm implementing the same strategies. And I think one of the things that has helped me is I built really good relationships with realtors and mortgage brokers and even contractors throughout Canada, right? So they pass me off-market deals, right? And that's what's really helped me still make sense of those deals, because to buy a deal like on realtor.ca, that's retail, right? And in Ontario, I don't know how that makes sense, right? But especially for my strategy, at the end of the day, you buy a property and it still cash flows, right? But you don't make much money. Sure, it's an okay investment, but my strategy is to like get my money back within like 2 years, right? So
and how do you see like I know no one has a crystal ball, but like the near future, the far future with interest rates going up?
Based on kind of the patterns, it's very unpredictable to be honest, right? Because I remember my mortgage broker, like two of them were telling me at one point they were telling me opposite things because no one knew, right? Right. But it's just, I think what you need to do in something like this is you don't know, right? Like a war could break out and things could literally go totally south, right? Yeah. So you don't really know, but what you can do is kind of underwrite the deal properly, making sure the deal makes sense, doing the numbers, having contingencies, role playing, worst case scenarios, right? These are the things that will help you just in case those events do come up. Yeah. Because I know on my last deal that I raised money with partners, the one problem that happened was the delays, right? The delays with CMHC and then the interest rates rising. So it's just like, I think we had a 4-month delay, but 4-month delay, now we're paying like almost 11% on like $3-4 million. Right? That's I was sweating there, right? So it's just like, we need to get out of this, right? But we made it happen, right? And the only thing we made it happen because I had reserves. It's just like, but it's crazy because I have a very close friend who's a builder, and he was telling me like, people are going bankrupt.
Right. Left, right, and center. So. And is residential real estate, is that like your focus, or are you like looking for like hotels eventually or commercial spaces, or?
It's my focus. I do have other assets classes like commercial and like mixed commercial, and then I do have a mobile home park, right?
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Where's that?
That's in North Bay.
Okay, nice.
You capped it.
Yes.
Capitalized hard on that.
Exactly.
That's smart though.
Yeah.
You took an area that
worked,
no one
right?
wanted to. Yeah, no, but that's it.
Through the pandemic, like it boomed. Boomed. So it was perfect. But I think, sorry, what was the question?
In regards to the asset class, is it focused on residential, or are you looking to expand in regards to like the sort of asset?
So yes, mixed. So I did some mixed family, mixed commercial, and then also I have a mobile home park. But I think the best asset is residential, like residential multifamily, because you can implement the burst strategy. Yeah. Right. I can't do that on a mobile home park, right? I can't do that. It'd be very hard to do that in mixed commercial because then the cap rates are different, right? So, but on a residential multifamily building, it works perfectly. Right.
Yeah. Because I see a lot of investors now going into like storage facilities and different sort of like asset classes.
Yes, storage facilities again works, but it's also like, I also think it's where you are doing this. Like in Canada, I think the biggest advantage we have is being able to work with CMHC. So you get right now they have a program where you can get literally 95% loan to value.
Wow.
Right. With a 50-year amortization. Right.
In Canada.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Right. So when you know that there's those opportunities, right? So you can capitalize on the residential market, right?
Yeah.
Multifamily.
But it's not everywhere. So that's why it works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, you know, financial literacy is probably the most important thing. Like my parents immigrated from this country, from a civil war, from El Salvador. They came here, you acquire a lot of debt. That becomes the new norm, and then you're living on debt, right? So like in regards to financial literacy, like how are you able to educate yourself to such a an extreme? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think financial literacy is crucial, right? I think they should honestly teach that in school.
Yeah.
Right. Because
how do we not know how to pay our mortgage or taxes?
Well, it's just
like
from
school.
It's that's not the point of it, right? Sadly enough.
At the end of the day, you're right. You're right.
The
schools, the idea of school is to kind of create employees,
yeah,
right? not entrepreneurs, right? But yeah, financial literacy is so important, where I think the combination of, well, technically a lot of the books I was reading was based on financial literacy, right? So, and just even the one seminar that I saw with Robert Kiyosaki kind of explaining the cash flow quadrant, that's financial literacy.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's what they try to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
like the 3-tier corporate structure, the holding company, how you're funneling taxes through there. It's just like this is stuff you don't know if you just go to school.
Yeah.
And it's sad though.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because like it's not in school, but if you think about it, makes sense, because at the end of the day, school's there for employees, right? Like to kind of create employees, right? And at the end of the day, it's interesting because the people that know this create the companies that hire the employees.
True.
Right. So it makes sense why it's not in school, but I think it should be in school. Just, I think the society would be more like, I think the society would be better and different. Right. So, but yeah.
Man, this is good.
No, it was
a great
amazing,
conversation.
Man. Like insightful as hell. I'm like, this is great. I just want to even ask at the end of it is, especially with, I asked about it a little bit earlier, and I'm not too educated on it, but with like what is it? The capital.
Yeah. He was wondering. So capitalization and recapitalization, is there a difference in those terms?
Capitalization and what?
And recapitalization.
Like the cap rate?
No. So for example, like when we were introducing you, like, you know, like acquisitions, recapitalization. What does that mean? Recapitalization.
So recapitalization, like in terms of refinancing?
Yeah, like I guess
so yeah, I was just like wondering, is that based off like the area and making it kind of pushing it to being what it's supposed to be? Because like how I interpret recapitalization, right? Because even I was kind of confused by when I heard it. Yeah. Is that just taking an area that is maybe not marketed as it should be and then bringing it up to where it should be? Or is it?
Yeah.
That's why I was just very confused on it. So I didn't want to ask.
Recapitalization in, I guess, in terms of what I do, it would be going into a building that's distressed. Okay. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I think that's what my interpretation of it was.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where I got the big win. And that's basically this normal strategy that I do. But go into the building, you know, it's outdated. You get it for a good price. You go in, renovate all the units, stabilize the rents, get better, you know, quality tenants in there. And then now that building's worth more. Okay. And then you go to the bank and say, okay, I bought it for like, I don't know, 6.5. Now it's worth 10 or 12 million. Okay. And then you refinance it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was just a distinction I wanted to.
Yeah. And then another question I had too is like, when you first started this journey, social media was somewhere, but now where you're at right now, social media has exponentially grown, right? So like, how are you taking advantage of the growth of social media?
I think sharing my story, definitely with the other businesses, definitely capitalizing. I think lifestyle, everybody, I find social media is just like, I think there's a half of it is like educational entrepreneurship. Yeah. And then there's a half of just like flexing and like, you know, lifestyle and just vacations and all that stuff. Right. So, which at the end of the day, like, it's a good marketplace to be on and use as a tool. And that's what I tell people. Always remember, you're either you're either using social media as a tool or you are the consumer, right? Like you are the product, right? Right. On the social media, you know, because they want you to be on there, you know, looking at it, spending your time on it, right? So it's just, yeah.
And was that a big barrier for you to break? Like, you know, putting your face, putting the camera, talking to it? Because like, I'm not gonna lie, like when we first started podcasts, we're looking at ourselves, we're hearing our voices, we're like, holy fuck. Like,
I know it's very,
it's weird, you know?
It is weird.
Yeah. How did you break through that barrier, like of like, you know, putting yourself out there, showing people what you do?
For sure. It definitely at the beginning, it's weird. And I feel this is more comfortable, more natural talking with somebody, but man, think about talking in front of a camera to yourself. Like you just feel like weird doing it. And then, you know, but after a while you just get used to it, right? Because, you know, at the end of the day, you look at it like you're sharing your journey. This will probably help somebody, right? And it has. Like I have so many emails or messages saying like, oh, your content's helping me, like, you know, I have a question about this or this, right? Like it's making an impact. So
did you ever fear like that you're showing maybe ego as opposed to like education? Because like, you know, like you're very successful. Like was that ever something that crossed your mind?
Yes, it has, but it's interesting because the truth is like I watch kind of what other people that are 10 times bigger than me do, right? And they're having success with it. And one of the statements I've heard is just at the end of the day, like if you are sharing your journey, right, and maybe you do share a check or a big win, to a lot of people, that's going to be motivating, right? Inspiring. There's going to be a few that are going to be haters.
The keyboard warriors.
Right? Exactly. It's fake, you're a phony, whatever, right? At the end of the day, you can't help them. Because they can't even help themselves. Don't focus on them. Right? Help the ones that are inspired. So
do you read comments? Do those bug you? Any ones like that? Or
they don't bug me. I just, you know, I know how the algorithm works. So I just, you know, kind of egg them on.
Fair enough. That's smart the way you do it. Get more likes.
It does, though. That's the sad part, right? Like
it's crazy. One of our most viral clips, like on this podcast, was Plush. Like she's like some Toronto influencer. Anyways, 1.4 million, and it was just people roasting her, and people just fighting about like the content
about her, and like
and it's just like
we met. She's a great person. But like everybody wants to talk about the person they don't know. And that's where you see like the discourse, and that's what I guess generates views.
But blowing her up.
Literally giving it all the clout, right?
At the end of the day, you know, positive or negative on social media is still will help, right? It'll still help blow you up, right?
100%. And I guess like, is there anything else you would like to let our audience know in regards to like what you're promoting, what you're doing, or how they can get in touch with you?
To plug in?
Well, if I'm always open to helping people. At this, as I mentioned, I do have a community called Kingdom of Wealth that we are building, and it's basically just a community to kind of help people create generational wealth through real estate investing. And then I also have, you know, my company Priek, right, which is, you know, for more so investors, right? So, but if you need to get in touch with me, I have my social. I have my information on my social media.
Okay. And we'll make sure to add it in the description and everything. Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, yo, what's this guy doing? How's he doing it?
Right?
No, but honestly, like Mr. Pityn, it's been a great conversation. I thank you so much for taking the time like out of your day to come sit with us. And we got to be in touch. And in a year, we'll have you back on.
100%. Definitely.
We'll have you back on. And I know the stories are going to be way crazier.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It has been great.
Of course. Of course. And for the audience who's been able to tune in thus far, thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll make sure to add all of Mr. Pityn's information down low.
You know,
peace.